Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we're hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, and Text 25, which says, after hearing these words of devotional service from the mouth of his son Prahlada, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry. His lips trembling, he spoke as follows to Sanda and the son of his guru, Shukracharya. Text 26. O unqualified, most heinous son of a Brahmana, you have disobeyed my order and taken shelter of the party of my enemies. You have taught this poor boy about devotional service. What is this nonsense? Text 27. In due course of time, various types of diseases are manifest in those who are sinful. Similarly, in this world, there are many deceptive friends in false garbs, but eventually, because of their false behavior, their actual enmity becomes manifest. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Being anxious about the education of his boy Prahlada, Hiranyakashipu was very much dissatisfied. When Prahlada began teaching about devotional service, Hiranyakashipu immediately regarded the teachers as his enemies in the garb of friends. In this verse, the words roga patakinam eva refer to disease, which is the most sinful and miserable of the conditions of material life. Janma mrityu jara vyadi. Disease is the symptom of the body of a sinful person. The Smriti Shastras say, Brahmaha kshaya rogi syat, surapa siyavadantaka, swarna hari tu kunaki, duskarma guru talpaga. Murderers of the Brahmanas are later afflicted by tuberculosis. Drunkards become toothless. Those who have stolen gold are afflicted by diseased nails, and sinful men who have sexual connections with the wife of a superior are afflicted by leprosy and similar skin diseases. Whoa. Sri Guru Putra Uvacha. The son of Shukracharya, Hiranyakashipu's spiritual master, said, O enemy of King Indra, O king, whatever your son Prahlada has said was not taught to him by me or anyone else. His spontaneous devotional service has naturally developed in him. Therefore, please give up your anger and do not unnecessarily accuse us. It is not good to insult a Brahmana in this way. Text 29. Sri Narada Muni continued, when Hiranyakashipu received this reply from the teacher, he again addressed his son Prahlada. Hiranyakashipu said, You rascal, most fallen of our family, if you have not received this education from your teachers, where have you gotten it? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura explains that devotional service is actually Bhadra Sati, not Abhadra Asati. In other words, the knowledge of devotional service can be neither inauspicious nor contrary to etiquette. To learn devotional service is the duty of everyone. Therefore, the spontaneous education of Prahlada Maharaja is supported as auspicious and perfect. Text 30. Prahlada Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions, and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this verse, the words Matir na Krishne refer to devotional service rendered to Krishna. So-called politicians, erudite scholars, and philosophers who read Bhagavad Gita try to twist some meaning from it to suit their material purposes, but their misunderstandings of Krishna will not yield them any profit. Because such politicians, philosophers, and scholars are interested in using Bhagavad Gita as a vehicle for adjusting things materially. For them, constant thought of Krishna or Krishna consciousness is impossible. Matir na Krishne, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 1855, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Only through devotional service can one understand Krishna as he is. The so-called politicians and scholars think of Krishna as fictitious. The politician says that his Krishna is different from the Krishna depicted in Bhagavad Gita. Even though he accepts Krishna and Rama as the supreme, he thinks of Rama and Krishna as impersonal because he has no idea of service to Krishna. Thus, his only business is puna punas charvita charvananam, chewing the chewed again and again. The aim of such politicians and academic scholars is to enjoy this material world with their bodily senses. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that those who are griha vrata, whose only aim is to live comfortably with the body in the material world, cannot understand Krishna. The two expressions, grihavrata and charvita charvananam, indicate that a materialistic person tries to enjoy sense gratification in different bodily forms, life after life, but is still unsatisfied in the name of personalism. This ism or that ism, such persons always remain attached to the materialistic way of life. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.44, Bhogaisvarya prasaktanam taya parata chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samado navidyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Those who are attached to material enjoyment cannot be fixed in devotional service to the Lord. They cannot understand Bhagavan, Krishna, or his instructions. Bhagavad Gita. Adanta tukobir vishatam tamishram. Their path actually leads toward hellish life. As confirmed by Rishabhadeva, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimukte. One must try to understand Krishna by serving a devotee. The word Mahat refers to a devotee. Mahatmanas tamam partha daivim pakritim asrita. Bhajanti ananya manaso kyatva bhutadam avyayam. O son of Prita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Bhagavad Gita 9.13. A Mahatma is one who is constantly engaged in devotional service 24 hours a day. As explained in the following verses, unless one adheres to such a great personality, one cannot understand Krishna. Hiranyakashipu wanted to know where Prahlada had gotten this Krishna consciousness, who had taught him. Prahlada sarcastically replied, "My dear father, persons like you never understand Krishna. One can understand Krishna only by serving a Mahat, a great soul. Those who try to adjust material conditions are said to be chewing the chewed. No one has been able to adjust material conditions, but life after life, generation after generation, people try and repeatedly fail unless one is properly trained by a Mahat, a Mahatma, or unalloyed devotee of the Lord. There is no possibility of one's understanding Krishna and his devotional service. We stop there, we continue. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, text number 31. Nate viduswata gatim hi vishnum, durasaya ye bahir arta manina, andayatandir upan yamais tepisa tantram urudamni badaha. Translation. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men, guided by another blind man, miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men, led by another materially attached man, are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in the materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Since there must always be a difference of opinion between the demons and the devotees, Hiranyakashipu, when criticized by his son Prahlada Maharaj, should not have been surprised that Prahlada Maharaj differed from his way of life. Nonetheless, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and wanted to rebuke his son for deriding his teacher or spiritual master, who had been born in the Brahmana family of the great Acharya Sukracharya. The word Sukra means semen, and Acharya refers to a teacher or guru. Hereditary gurus or spiritual masters have been accepted everywhere since time immemorial. But Prahlad Maharaja declined to accept such a seminal guru or take instruction from him. An actual guru is Shrotriya, one who has heard or received perfect knowledge through parampara, the disciplic succession. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaja did not recognize a seminal spiritual master. Such spiritual masters are not at all interested in Vishnu. Indeed, they are hopeful of material success. Bahir artamanina. The word bahi means external. Arta means interest, and manina means taking very seriously. Generally speaking, practically everyone is unaware of the spiritual world. The knowledge of the materialist is restricted within the 4 billion mile limit of this material world, which in the dark portion of the creation, They do not know that beyond the material world is the spiritual world. Unless one is a devotee of the Lord, one cannot understand the existence of the spiritual world. Gurus, teachers who are simply interested in this material world are described in this verse as andha, blind. Such blind men may lead many other blind followers without true knowledge of material conditions, but they are not accepted by devotees like Prahlad Maharaja. Such blind teachers, being interested in the external material world, are always bound by the strong ropes of material nature. Text 32. unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava completely freed from the material contamination. Persons very much inclined toward materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord in this way can one be freed from material contamination. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Becoming Krishna conscious brings about anartha upagama, the disappearance of all anarthas, the miserable conditions we have unnecessarily accepted. The material body is the basic principle of these unwanted miserable conditions. The entire Vedic civilization is meant to relieve one from these unwanted miseries. But persons bound by the laws of nature do not know the destination of life, as described in the previous verse. Isha tantriyam uru damni badaha. They are conditioned by the three strong modes of material nature. The education that keeps the conditioned soul bound life after life is called materialistic education. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained that materialistic education expands the influence of Maya. Such an education induces the conditioned soul to be increasingly attracted to materialistic life and to stay further and further away from liberation from unwanted miseries. Now you see why you shouldn't send your children to schools today, because these schools are only going to teach children how to become sense gratifiers. They're not going to teach them anything bona fide. Therefore, we have to have our own schools, or we should teach our children at home. If you put your children in these schools, they become corrupted very quickly by all the nonsense teachers, the nonsense curriculum, and nonsense boys and girls in the class. So, what can we do? We say this, but nobody listens to it, unfortunately. One may ask why highly educated persons do not take to Krishna consciousness. The reason is explained in this verse. Unless one takes shelter of a bona fide, fully Krishna conscious spiritual master, there is no chance of understanding Krishna. We should listen to this. If you put your children in schools where they're in contact with non-devotees and the teachers are non-devotees, you are basically killing your child's ability to become a devotee. The educators, scholars, and big political leaders worshipped by millions of people cannot understand the goal of life and take to Krishna consciousness, for they have not accepted a bona fide spiritual master. And the Vedas. Therefore, in the Mudaka Upanishad 3.2.3, it is said, Nayam Atma Pavarchanena Labhyo Na Midhaya Na Bahuna Shrutena. One cannot become self-realized simply by having an academic education, by presenting lectures in an erudite way, Pravachachena Labhya, or by being an intelligent scientist who discovers many wonderful things. One cannot understand Krishna unless one is graced by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only one who has surrendered to a pure devotee of Krishna and taken the dust of his lotus feet can understand Krishna. First, one must understand how to get out of the clutches of Maya. The only means is to become Krishna conscious. And to become Krishna conscious very easily, one must take shelter of a realized soul, a Mahat or Mahatma, whose only interest is to engage in the service of the Supreme Lord. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:13, Mahatmanas tamam partha daivim prakritim asritaha bhajanti ananya manaso yadva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Therefore, to end the unwanted miseries of life, one must become a devotee. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana sarver gunais tatra samasate sura. One who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. Bhagavatam 5.18.12. Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Guru Tasyaite Katita Hiarta Prakasante Mahatmana. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Sritasvatara Upanishad 6.23. Yam evaisha vrinute tena labhyas tasyaisa atma virinute tanam swam. The Lord is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. Mukundaka Upanishad 3.2.3. These are Vedic injunctions. One must take shelter of a self-realized spiritual master, not a materially educated scholar or politician. One must take shelter of a nishkinchana, a person engaged in devotional service and free from material contamination. That is the way to return home back to Godhead. Text 33. After Prahlada Maharaj had spoken in this way and become silent, Hiranyakashipu, blinded by anger, threw him off his lap and onto the ground. Oh boy, he was really upset. Text 34. Indignant and angry, his reddish eyes like molten copper, Hiranyakashipu said to his servants, "O demons, take this boy away from me. He deserves to be killed. Kill him as soon as possible." Well, he's really angry. He wants to kill his own son. And why? What did the boy do that was wrong? His only fault was he was a devotee. So he didn't do anything wrong. Because the father is a demon, he wants to kill such a wonderful devotee. This boy Prahlada is the killer of my brother, for he has given up his family to engage in the devotional service of the enemy, Lord Vishnu, like a menial servant. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Hiranyakashipu considered his son Prahlada Maharaj to be the killer of his brother, because Prahlad Maharaj was engaged in the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. In other words, Prahlad Maharaja would be elevated to Swarupya liberation, and in that sense he resembled Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Prahlada was to be killed by Hiranyakashipu. Devotees, Vaishnavas, attained the liberation of Sarupya, Salokya, Sharsti, and Samipya, whereas the Mayavadis are supposed to attain the liberation known as Sayuja. Sayuja Mukti, however, is not very secure, whereas Sarupya Mukti, Salokya Mukti, Shastri Mukti, and Samipya Mukti are most certain. Although the servants of Lord Vishnu, Narayana, in the Vaikuntha planets are equally situated with the Lord, the devotees there know very well that the Lord is the master, whereas they are servants. Text 36. Although Prahlada is only 5 years old, even at this young age, he has given up his affectionate relationship with his father and mother. Therefore, he is certainly untrustworthy. These are the demons speaking. Indeed, it is not at all believable that he will behave well toward Vishnu. Text 37. Although a medicinal herb, being born in the forest, does not belong to the same category as a man, if beneficial, it is kept very carefully. Similarly, if someone outside one's family is favorable, he should be given protection like a son. On the other hand, if a limb of one's body is poisoned by disease, it must be amputated so that the rest of the body may live happily. Similarly, even one's own son, if unfavorable, must be rejected, although born of one's own body. Well, this is the false narrative of a demon. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed all devotees of the Lord to be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than trees. Otherwise, there will always be disturbances to their execution of devotional service. Here is a vivid example of how a devotee is disturbed by a non-devotee, even though the non-devotee is an affectionate father. The material world is such that a non-devotee father becomes an enemy of a devotee son. Having determined to kill even his son, Hiranyakashipu gave the example of amputating a part of one's body that has become septic, meaning sick, and therefore injurious to the rest of the body. The same example, of course, may also be applied to non-devotees. Chanakya Pandit advises, Tyaja durjana samsargam bhaja sadhu samang gamam. Devotees actually serious about advancing in spiritual life should give up the company of non-devotees and always keep company with devotees. To be too attached to material existence is ignorance, because material existence is temporary and miserable. Therefore, devotees who are determined to perform tapasya, penances and austerities, to realize the self, and who are determined to become advanced in spiritual consciousness, must give up the company of atheistic non-devotees. Prahlada Maharaj maintained an attitude of non-cooperation with the philosophy of his father, Hiranyakashipu. Yet, he was tolerant and humble. Hiranyakashipu, however, being a non-devotee, was so polluted that he was even prepared to kill his own son. He justified this by putting forward the logic of amputation. Text 38. What is the logic of amputation? We're going to learn. Just as uncontrolled senses are the enemies of all yogis engaged in advancing in spiritual life, this Prahlada, who appears to be a friend, is an enemy because I cannot control him. Therefore, this enemy, whether eating, sleeping, or sitting or sleeping, must be killed by all means. And this is the way demons think. Purport. Hiranyakashipu planned a campaign to kill Prahlad Maharaj, his own son. He would kill his son by administering poison to him while he was eating, by making him sit in boiling oil, or by throwing him under the feet of an elephant while he was lying down. Thus Hiranyakashipu decided to kill his innocent son, who was only 5 years old, simply because the boy had become a devotee of the Lord. This is the attitude of non-devotees toward devotees. Text 39 and 40. The demons, Rakshasas, the servants of Hiranyakashipu, thus began striking the tender parts of Prahlad Maharaj's body with their tridents. The demons all had fearful faces, sharp teeth, and reddish, coppery beards and hair, and they appeared extremely threatening. That means that they had the hair that was like the color of copper, like a reddish type of color, and their beards were also reddish, making a tumultuous sound, shouting, "Chop him up! Pierce him!" They began striking Prahlada Maharaj, who sat silently, meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, Prahlad was not afraid, and he was not going to be intimidated by this nonsense activity. Chop him up, pierce him, and nonsense. Text 41. Even though a person who has no assets in pious activities performs some good deed, it will have no result. Thus, the weapons of the demons had no tangible effects upon Prahlad Maharaja, because he was a devotee, undisturbed by material conditions, and fully engaged in meditating upon and serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchangeable, who cannot be realized by the material senses, and who is the soul of the entire universe. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prahlada Maharaj was constantly and fully engaged in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is said, Govinda Parirambita, Prahlada Maharaja engaged himself always in meditation, and thus he was protected by Govinda. Okay, that's our takeaway for today. If you are always in meditation, meaning always thinking about Krishna and how to serve Krishna and how to engage in devotional service, just like Prahlad Maharaj, that's a type of meditation. It's not silent meditation in a closet. It's you're always thinking of Krishna and how to engage in devotional service. And thus, he was protected by Govinda, just as a small child on the lap of his father or mother is fully protected. A devotee, in all conditions, is protected by the Supreme Lord. Now that is very important to accept and understand. If we become a devotee and we're sincere and we follow the rules and regulations, it's understood that Krishna will protect his devotee. Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranasati. Declare it, Arjuna, to the whole world that my devotee will never perish. This is the absolute gold standard promise that Krishna takes to his devotee. What is it? Just as a small child on the lap of his father or mother is fully protected, a devotee in all conditions is protected by the Supreme Lord. Does this mean that when Prahlad Maharaj was attacked by the demons, the Rakshasas, Govinda was also attacked by the demons? This is not possible. There have been many attempts by the demons to hurt or kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he cannot be injured by any material means, because he is always in transcendence. Therefore, the words Pare Brahmani are used here. The demons, the Rakshasas, can neither see nor touch the Supreme Lord, although they may superficially think that they are striking the Lord's transcendental body with their material weapons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described in this verse as Anirdesye. We cannot understand him to be a particular place. We cannot understand him to be in a particular place, for he is all-pervasive. Moreover, he is Akhilatma, the active principle of everything, even material weapons. Those who cannot understand the position of the Lord are unfortunate. They may think that they can kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotee, but all their attempts will be futile. They will fail. The Lord knows how to deal with them. Text 42. My dear King Yudhisthira, when all the attempts of the demons to kill Prahlad Maharaj were futile, the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, being most fearful, began contriving other means to kill him. You see how nasty this Hiranyakashipu is. But he's typical of all the nasty people in the world today. In the time of Hiranyakashipu, there were only a few demons. Today, hundreds, millions of demons. So it's much more dangerous today than in the time of Hiranyakashipu. Text 43 and 44. Hiranyakashipu could not kill his son by throwing him beneath the feet of big elephants, throwing him among huge, fearful snakes, employing destructive spells, hurling him from the top of a hill, conjuring up illusory tricks, administering poison, starving him, exposing him to severe cold, winds, fire, and water, or throwing heavy stones to crush him. When Hiranyakashipu found that he could not in any way harm Prahlada, who was completely sinless, he was in great anxiety about what to do next. You see, this is something that we should understand. A devotee who strictly follows the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, who is also always kind to all living entities, and is never outside of Krishna consciousness, will always be corrected, will always be protected by the mercy of Lord Krishna. We should have full faith in this statement. And believe me, it's a fact. I mean, I'm almost, almost 80 years old. But yet, in my whole life, I know and I have experienced being protected by Krishna. Even in the most dire situations, I was protected by Krishna. It's true. Hiranyakashipu could not kill his son by throwing him beneath the feet of big elephants, throwing him amongst huge, fearful snakes, employing destructive spells, hurling him from the top of a hill, conjuring up illusory tricks, administering poison, starving him, exposing him to severe cold, winds, fire, and water, or throwing heavy stones to crush him. When Hiranyakashipu found that he could not in any way harm Prahlada, who was completely sinless, he was in great anxiety about what to do next. Text 45. Hiranyakashipu thought, I have used many ill names in chastising this boy Prahlada, and had devised many means of killing him. But despite all my endeavors, he could not be killed. Indeed, he saved himself by his own powers without being affected in the least by these treacheries and abominable actions. Wow. Although he is very near to me and is merely a child, he is situated in complete fearlessness. He resembles a dog's curved tail, which can never be straightened. In other words, it's impossible to change Prahlad Maharaj's dedication to Krishna. In the same way, you can never make the tail of a dog straight. You can straighten it, but it'll always come back. Because he never forgets my misbehavior and his connection with his master, Lord Vishnu. He resembles a dog's curled tail, which can never be straightened, because he never forgets my misbehavior and his connection with his master, Lord Vishnu. Purport. The word suna means of a dog, and sepa means tail. The example is ordinary. However, one may try to straighten a dog's tail. It is never straight, but always curved. Suna Sepa is also the name of the second son of Ajigartha. He was sold to Harishchandra, but he later took shelter of Vishwamrita, Harishchandra's enemy, and never left his side. That's a great story. We'll get to that soon. Huh? Yeah, we can stop there. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. We are stopping on Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 46. And we'll begin on 47. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So it's the temple's book, or it's somebody's book? It's the temple's book?
No, that's our book only.
It's our book, okay.
I'm keeping it here because you're coming with it. Or we can take it home. You can hold right forward.
Okay, I'm putting it like this.